What are some very creepy facts? The Colombian serial killer Pedro Alonso Lopez, who is known as the Monster of the Andes, raped and murdered over 300 girls from Ecuador, Peru and Colombia. However, after he was caught and imprisoned for 18 years, he was put in a psychiatric hospital. There he was reviewed, declared to be sane and was set free, in spite of his blatant avowal that he fully intends to kill again. Since he was released in 1998, nobody knows where he is or what he's doing. He is supposed to be 71 years old at present. He is known for being the most prolific killer ever. There is a genetic disease called fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva. When tissue is damaged, it is replaced with bone. Growths form underneath their skin, and their joints lock solid, so over time, those affected slowly become encased in a prison of bone just beneath their own skin. They usually have to choose between sitting or standing up for the rest of their life. By the end of their life, they have to drink every meal through a straw and can barely move. Bacteria and viruses can be frozen for millions of years and still be viably infectious, and having never encountered humanity before, could have no end of catastrophic results should they be uncovered and manage to infect a person or animal. Not to worry though, it's not like millions of ancient pathogens are currently trapped in permafrost, which is now melting bit by bit each and every day. Rosemary Kennedy was JFK's sister. She suffered from oxygen deprivation at birth, and that unfortunately stunted her mental growth. She had a pretty decent childhood, but as she grew older she began to act out. Afraid that her behavior would risk his political career, her father, Joseph, agreed to have her lobotomized. Her mother, Rose, was against it and forbade him from doing it. So he did it behind her back when she went on a trip. After the operation, Rosemary's already low IQ was lowered even further, to the point she could no longer walk or communicate. Her family had her locked up in an institution and basically disowned her. They never visited and never publicly acknowledged her anymore. Rosemary died at the age of 86. Her mother never forgave her husband for what he had done. Bacteria and viruses can be frozen for millions of years and still be viably infectious, and having never encountered humanity before, could have no end of catastrophic results should they be uncovered and manage to infect a person or animal. Not to worry though, it's not like millions of ancient pathogens are currently trapped in permafrost, which is now melting bit by bit each and every day. Imagine being totally aware of someone performing CPR, but you physically can't move or respond. Well, that's what happens when you get bitten by a blue-ringed octopus. You have approx 6 minutes between being bitten and someone starting CPR to keep your heart and lungs functioning to ensure you survive, all whilst being totally aware of what is happening to you. Neurotoxins are fun. Female mummies in ancient Egypt were always more decomposed than their male counterparts. They discovered that this was because male bodies were embalmed a lot sooner than female bodies. Female bodies were kept at the family home until they started to decompose in order to avoid necrophilia at the embalmers. According to Abe Lincoln's bodyguard Crook, he said Lincoln had a dream about his own assassination 3 nights in a row before he was killed. Crook told Lincoln not to go on that fateful night, and all Lincoln said was goodbye, Crook, before he went to the play. This was very ODD, as Lincoln always said. Good night, not goodbye. The origins of vampires as we know them. Basically, your body has gas build up when you die. I'm not medically inclined enough to explain why. Basically, the gas has to escape somehow, and so it would pass through the vocal cords in the throat. This creates the low moan that makes the body sound as if it was in pain. The people back then had no idea what was happening, and random bodies would just start moaning in pain. And thus they believed that the bodies were rising from the dead. And when stabbed, the gas escaped otherwise, thus leading to the belief that the only way to stop a vampire was to stab a dead body in the chest. This also led to a lot of strange burials, like the man that was buried in a stone wall to prevent him from rising from the dead. I can't really blame them. I'd be freaked out too if a corpse suddenly started to make sounds. Creepy for some, but I find stuff like that fascinating. There's documentaries on YT talking about it. I highly recommend them. Edit. Words cannot describe how happy I am that so many of you provided additional facts. I'm having a blast reading your comments. I don't know much about this topic, And so it's great to have a place where more information and leads are constantly being shared. This is the documentary that I saw, ton of others out there with more, possibly better, information. If you have any recommendations yourselves, please link them in your comment. I'd love to see them. From Atlas Obscura by Thur, Thuraz, and Morton. Necropants, reader's discretion advised. In Iceland, a longest time ago, 17th C, friends followed complex rules to obtain a dead man's skin to turn them into pants. 1. You had to get permission from the dude to use his skin after he kicked the bucket. 2. You would then wait until burial formalities concluded. 3. You would rob the shit out of your buddy's grave. 4. You would cut the waist and peel the bottom half of the body off in one perfect flay. 5. You would then steal a coin from a poor widow, preferably your bud's. 6. Place the coin in the scrotum of the necropants to attract cosmic shit, specifically more wealth in life, and leave the groin full of coins at all times. 7. Pass that shit down to your kid. Fun fact, the Museum of Icelandic Sorcery and Witchcraft has a pair on display for all of us sickos to gawk at. Edit, * steal a coin. Additional, you are right, it's folklore. What is creepy is that they dedicated a museum to all of this fucking metal folklore, and bothered to create a replica of a very disturbing idea. Smiley face. I just thought the storytelling would be fun, and lo and behold, I had some amazing comments come from it. Human brains when they dry out smell like cat piss, that stinky ammonia smell. Worked in an ER for 17 years in court, had a gunshot to the head come in, and a chunk fell onto my shoe and didn't notice. While driving home, was like, WTF, did my cat piss in the car, or something, went to take my shoes off and there is was. **** edit for all you people with morbid curiosity. Fresh brains look like cream cheese mixed with strawberry jam. **** edit 2, no, they died, trans life harvested organs. People don't take their antimalarial drugs when they travel because they hear bad stories about the side effects, and they see native people in the areas living okay without taking pills every day. The truth is, populations native to malaria endemic areas have all passed through pretty intense natural selection for survival, and have a host of genes that prevent them from dying or suffering the other worst effects. Also, most of the resistance is built up over time. This is why it's most common for children to die rather than adults. Whatever people have heard about the side effects of the antimalarials, getting it is so much worse. I, fortunately, have never had it, but I study it as part of my work and people have told me about having it, and they all say the same thing, it is so awful you can't believe you're even still alive. It comes in cycles, usually 48 hours, and each cycle is agonizing and brings you the brink of death. Sometimes it takes you. Sometimes it spares you for another few hours until it starts again. And there are forms that, even if you clear the infection with drugs, it still remains dormant in your system and can come back at any time. Edit. I don't want to freak people out too much. There are drug combinations that can kill every stage of the parasite as long as there is no drug resistance. The stonefish, an incredibly venomous fish living in tropical waters mostly off the coast of Australia and parts of US, can cause pain that only escalates with time. Eventually the pain will subside, but even after the barb is removed, patients have reported increasing pain 12+ hours later. Without antivenom or denaturing the venom with excessive heat, the pain builds and builds until the patients request euthanasia. Its spines hold the venom, hidden in its dorsal fins. Aboriginals living around the Great Barrier Reef have corroborees, large gatherings, and will during these gatherings hold reenactments of people being stung by this monster, for what I assume is either amusement, learning, or both. Edit. Corroboree clarification. Edit 2. Pain does eventually end. Reminded of suicide tree where pain does not. Terrible leaves for toilet paper. Thank you for all the upvotes. So glad one of my parents' horror stories from Australia is so well received. Cockroaches have been recorded eating human flesh, both living and dead, as well as fingernails, eyelashes, feet, and hands. The American cockroach and German cockroach are more likely to bite humans than other species. Pretty sure Australian cockroaches do something equally creepy, but as an Australian who plans to sleep at some point in the future, I'm not going to Google it. Contrary to popular belief, the Space Shuttle Challenger did not explode. The fuel tank it was attached to did, and it forced the shuttle to change direction so quickly that aerodynamic forces tore it apart. The crew module survived the initial breakup, and it's believed that some of the astronauts were conscious for the long fall back to Earth. Upon inspecting the wreckage, NASA also determined that some of the switches were thrown, indicating that the pilot vainly tried to fly what was left of the shuttle before it crashed into the ocean. Half of your favorite 70s rock stars had 14-year-old girlfriends. Edit. Wow. I have been a Redditor for over 8 years. My previous highest comment was less than 200 upvotes. And I finally get to say it RIP inbox. Edit 2. Yes, I realize your favorite rock star might not have been a pedo creep, but I was so disappointed to find out how many were. I hope society is moving past where this is seen as remotely okay. But then again, people still work with Roman Polanski, and he was actually convicted of drugging and raping a 13-year-old. Fuck him. 13 to 14-year-olds are children. Protect children, don't sexualize them. It's not that hard. Edit 3. Enjoying the artistic work of bad people is an interesting issue. I still listen to lots of the music in question, but I don't think I would if these were active artists, and it was known I wasn't alive in the 70s. And I certainly don't support them financially, well, any more than Spotify plays, so I guess I do to some degree. In Polanski's case, I have seen some of his older movies, but never paid for one. I wouldn't support him financially in any way, and I wouldn't watch anything he makes at this point. I think it was Aziz Ansari who had an interesting bit asking the audience who still listens to R. Kelly, not a lot of hands, then later in the set asked who still listens to Michael Jackson, lots of hands and cheers. I think there is an issue of perceived guilt and also of artistic quality that plays into people's feelings. Regardless, I don't believe you should actively support known predators. A Japanese secret human experimentation group called Unit 731 performed experiments on infants, children and adults without anesthetic. They would cut out stomachs and reattach the esophagus to the intestines. Remove limbs and see how long people would die from blood loss. Removed parts of livers, brains and other organs. They would expose people to diseases and then dissected them alive. In all, an estimated 500,000 people were killed in these experiments. Unit 731 was given immunity from prosecution by the US government in order for the US to get access to the results of the experiments. Edit 1. To say that the above descriptions really only touch on the surface of the horrors that were performed by Unit 731. If you are squeamish, I would not recommend reading into this any further. Edit 2. To join the dots. If you've ever accessed healthcare, much of what we know about how the body responds to different traumas came from these experiments. So every time you are treated in a hospital, you are indirectly benefiting from these experiments. Boötes void. Massive area of space where around 2,000 galaxies should be, but only 60 are. No one knows why. Asterisk. So far the best hypothesis is that a race of aliens is creating an absurd amount of Dyson spheres and blocking out the light from those suns. Edit. Thanks for all the karma. Edit. Also, there are some comments that this comes from disturbances in the Big Bang, or that it could be a collection of smaller voids that have come together. These are also good theories, and ones that are less creepy. That said, if it's the Big Bang, then the base theory of the Big Bang, according to what I am reading, will have to change. If it's the smaller voids, then our model of the universe will have to change. Bottom line is that no one knows, and that is why it's creepy, because it could be any of these and the best minds in the world are at least slightly wrong, or that there is something out there that we don't have any working idea of where it came from. This is the modern day equivalent of Baba Yaga. Take care of the planet, or the void will eat it. So this happened to a friend of my mother. She would refuse to tell me his name, meaning I must know this guy. He was a regular guy, married. I don't know if he had kids when this happened, but the thing is he suddenly started to feel attracted to little kids at his late 30s. He said whenever he was near little kids he was unable to stop having thoughts. He confessed it to his wife when he realized he couldn't control this sexual attraction towards minors, because he was genuinely troubled about this. The guy sought clinical help and after a while, they discovered he had a tumor in his brain. Once removed the tumor, his pedophilic thoughts just disappeared. Edit. I just realized this is not a fact, so. Fact. A brain tumor can make you a pedophile. Any story about cosmonauts during the space race? Russia only wanted to get to space first. It didn't matter how many failed missions were between them and succeeding. It was all trial and error. If somebody didn't survive an attempt, they were wiped from history, any documentation destroyed, including being edited out of photographs. One story that I remember is the first man to free walk in space, Alexei Leonov. They didn't account for the pressure difference when making his suit, so when he stepped out, the suit expanding to the point of nearly falling apart, and he couldn't fit back in through the door. He had to release the oxygen from the suit to deflate it enough to get back inside. Another one is the Giudica Cordiglia brothers. This one may be considered more conspiracy theory, but as far as I know, the recordings are real. They were radio operators who picked up signals of very distressed-sounding Russian voices, and an SOS signal drifting away from Earth. When translated, the voices were calling for help, saying history would forget them, and saying it is getting very hot. Edit. Apparently the recordings were not real, so disregard that section. Definitely creepy, not so much fact. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos like this one.